if I remember right, you used to play. You had it in television, wasn't it?
Yes, in television, yes.
That's right. Yeah, the future of television,
Yeah,
I believe, was their catchphrase.
right
So you never
alongside
had like.
Dippin' Dots.
So you never had like Atari.
Never had an Atari. Nope.
Hmm. Well, what if I told you there was a comic book series that came out in the mid '80s based on the Atari games that nobody seems to remember and is criminally underrated.
I have a feeling you're about to fix all that.
But before we do that, I'm Paul.
I'm Steve.
And this is Check Your Shelf. Steve, you know me.
I believe I do, yes.
You know I love my comics.
Yes, you do. And you know a lot about him.
Well, today I want to talk about a comic book series that started in late 1983 and ran for 20 issues and is so criminally underrated, it's ridiculous. It has a amazing amount of pedigree behind it, and for some reason it never achieved what it should have. I'm of course talking about DC Comics' Atari Force. Let's see if I can get there you go.
Not the Atari Force, Atari Force.
Yes. About 2 years before this came out, the Atari 2600 had released like 5 mini comics in there when you bought like the game, and it was this series called Atari Force about this. It was the year 2005, and we had pierced the multiverse, and each issue of this like great, crazy, over-the-top science fiction series, like sort of tied into the game that it was put in. I think like Berserk and Defender and stuff like that were some of the ones that it was tied into. Well, a couple of years later, DC Comics got the rights to do an ongoing series based on Atari Force, but they took it in an entirely different direction. So the series was originally written by Roy Thomas and Jerry Conway. Conway being famous for killing Gwen Stacy and creating the Punisher over at Marvel, the much misunderstood anti-hero Punisher. And they came over to DC, and Roy Thomas, of course, is famous for being everybody's favorite Conan writer. He basically wrote Conan for Marvel for years and years. But personally, my personal favorite Thomas creation was his Invaders comic for Marvel, where he managed to talk Stan Lee into letting him look backwards and do a World War II comic based on all the characters they had a time with. The series follows the strangest sci-fi heroes of all. Martin Champion, who's this guy here in the corner, this normal looking dude, he's from the original like mini comic series. He's like this hermit scientist who is obsessed with this idea that within the multiverse, which is this like membranous universe that exists between realities, there's this evil entity trying to get through, and he calls it the Dark Destroyer, and they all think he's crazy, and he keeps sending probes out into the multiverse to try to find it, and one day he does. So this group gets together to basically go into the multiverse and I'll run down who they are in a minute. This group basically gets together to run into the multiverse to basically, fight the Dark Destroyer head on. And one of the cool things that Conway and Roy Thomas did was they took a science fiction comic and made it into it's actually a disguised superhero comic, because everyone on the team has like an interesting gimmick, like you have my personal favorite, and I'll put stills up here so people can see a little better. My fictional high school crush Dart had the ability to, like, she would get random precognitive visions of the future. Her sort of brother Tempest can travel between dimensions, like basically teleport. You got little Pack Rat here, who's this expert thief who is a coward until he's cornered, and when he's cornered, basically he kills everything in sight and blacks out and wakes up around a pile of bodies. Then you got Morphia up here. Morphia is this she's an empath with all kind of like psychic powers, and she's actually Martin Champion's psychiatrist, and she's also the babysitter of this gigantic creature that they call Babe, who has like the mind of like a toddler, but it is enormous and has just incredible amounts of strength. So they all kind of tie together as like a superhero team. Well, and I'm gonna do here what I did with the Warlord series. I'm just gonna show random covers while I talk, if that's okay.
We'll think about it. We'll get back to you.
Issue 2, one of my personal favorites. The series, what I like about it is the team gets together, but it doesn't get together in that rushed fashion that like it does with like Giant Size X-Men #1, which is bang, 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 team. It takes about 5 issues for the entire team to get together, but it's not decompressed. Everything that happens in the issue moves the story forward. I'm going to take a minute, though. I want to talk about the artist, because Jose Luis Garcia Lopez is the reason why I will no longer even attempt to do a science fiction comic. Back like 10 years ago, when I was approached by Mike Barr to do a science fiction comic, I met him through my then publisher. I was way out of my element, but the opportunity to get to work with Barr, who, if you don't know who Mike Barr is, he's probably best known for creating this series called Camelot 3000, which was a futuristic retelling of the once and future king, King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. It's a really good, great science fiction adventure story, penciled by Mark Boland, who is he too is incredible. I'll put up a still because just showing the stuff off won't do it any justice. But everybody who Mike Barr has worked with was either like a legend or became a legend. So I was not gonna do this proposal with him. So I drew everything I could off of Lopez's artwork, and that's probably why the series never got picked up, because I was out of my element, but it was a great story. But Lopez's art is just incredible. He does like the first 12 issues with a short break, but there's Pack Rat going to town on some security guards. And then here's about where the team hooks up. The team finally meets up around issue 4 or 5, and this is Dart and Tempest. It's one of those misleading covers where, are they fighting? No, not really. They're play fighting. Anyway, so the team gets together and goes in. They steal the original spaceship from the original comics. It's the Scanner 1. It's this great ship that can travel between dimensions. It's almost like the TARDIS from Doctor Who in a weird way, but they steal it from the museum, go into the multiverse, confront the Dark Destroyer, and eventually they succeed in destroying this evil entity with his gigantic armada ready to come in and basically wipe out Earth. Now, one of the cool things, getting back to these two, one of the cool things about these two is they're basically mutants. Their parents were part of the original team, and when they were in the multiverse, they were affected by it to where, like, the fact that he can teleport but into the multiverse and beyond it, and she has like these psychic abilities because you know how dimensions work. This reality is different than that reality, but they're kind of the same. So that was kind of a really neat way to interject some like pretty cool science fiction powers into the storyline. But by issue 12 or 13, like, here's where they confront the Dark Destroyer in a very like this book owes a lot to Star Wars too. There's no you can't deny it, but it's glorious. It's such a good book series that like I said, not too many people, nobody I know read it. I hung out with a lot of comic book guys, and the only reason why I even read it was I wasn't a big DC guy at the time. I think I was reading like All-Star Squadron because it was a Roy Thomas book about World War II superheroes, so it was right up my alley. But because every comic book out there was like issue 200, issue 250, by the time I was collecting, any number one that came along, I grabbed it because I wanted to see what it was all about. And this one just, I had seen some of the mini comics because I didn't have an Atari because that stuff costs money. But some friends of mine had the mini comics, so I read them all there, and it's pretty cool. But here's another nice where Tempest confronts the Dark Destroyer. I think this book series was only supposed to last about 13 issues because by the time you get to where is it? By the time you get to, issue 12, that's pretty much a wrap-up series cover right there. You got Martin Champion facing off against the Dark Destroyer. I can't show you issue 13 because it's a huge spoiler for the series, but it was supposed to wrap up at that point, I feel. But the writers had there's some we could maybe play around with these characters for a while longer, and the series kind of what do they call that, diminishing returns after that, because Jerry Conway leaves to go on to do television stuff at that point. I think he was writing like Father Dowling Mysteries or something like that. So Mike Baron comes on as the writer, and Edward Barato comes on as the regular penciler. Hang on a minute. He comes on as the regular penciler and does like a really good job. He's pretty much doing his Lopez impression. Unfortunately, Barreto is no longer with us, but he was a really good artist, I feel. But the series kind of just like winded down. They didn't have any. There was no direction. Once you kill your big bad, what do you do after that? So they kind of set it up where maybe they didn't kill him, but it just kind of slowly just dwindles down and expires. But yeah, this comic was so influential to me. Here's a great where Morphia is trying to free Tempest from the torturers of the Dark Destroyer, and everybody gets an issue to shine. I mean, Packrat's brother is this he's like a police officer from their planet, and because he's brought so much shame to like the family name, he's on the hunt for him. So even he gets involved in the final story. But everybody gets his time to shine. The only one I feel didn't really get as much credit or as much screen time as he needed, other than comic relief, was Babe. But then, what do you do with like a 4-year-old, Incredible Hulk? So they didn't quite use him as well as I feel they could. But overall, man, this story was so good and didn't need to be. Like, if you read the mini comics were just like zany tie-ins to the game. This one went, you know what? No, we're gonna take the name. It's like when when Marvel had the rights to do the Micronauts, which was a toy series, crazy popular action figure line back when we were little. When he had the chance to do that, they were like, you know what? Do whatever. So they created this entire mythology and this whole big world. Well, big world, they're Micronauts, so small. This whole small big world. They did the same thing with Atari Force, and again, secretly sliding in the unapologetic superhero team that it was. For some reason, this series was never reprinted. There was talk like 2017, 2019, they were going to put like a collection of them together, which would have been amazing to see because it was going to be an oversized edition, so you can actually look at the how glorious the artwork is. But it never happened for whatever reason. If you go to conventions, you can usually pick these up pretty cheap if you can find them, a couple bucks a piece at best. Oh, I mean, eBay has them. Like, I've seen the entire collection go for like $80, which in my mind is crazy. But when you consider the going price of a comic today, it's comparable. But where it's not comparable is the writing and the art in this series just blows today's comics just like a torpedo out of the water. You'll get so much more story in these books back when comics were 75 cents. You get so much story out of this series. But yeah, it never saw reprints. It never saw like a collection, and that's unfortunate. And it's probably why the popularity of it they weren't able to get the oversized, reprint edition made. But man, I pull these out every couple of years and reread them, which is why I wish they'd put out like a collection so I don't put the wear and tear on these. But yeah, man, Atari Force, it was chef's kiss.
And out of 4 and 3 and 2 and 1.
Shoot. Easy 4.
Easy 4.
I'd give it an 11, but I'm in what you call a transitional period in my life where I'm trying not to engage in so much hyperbole. I've done it a million times in the past, so I'm going to try not to engage in it so much. So yeah, a solid 4, man. If you can pick them up, if you like science fiction, okay, if you're a sci-fi guy, or if you're a superhero guy, it works. Here's Babe surrounded by these little termite creatures, and he's crying. They crash landed on a planet and he got lost. So he does get, again, he gets his issue where he gets to shine, but still I feel he was underutilized. But yeah, Atari Force is for you if you like science fiction comics or science fiction books, superhero comics, Star Trek. There's a lot of Star Trek in this. There's a lot more Star Wars in it than there is Star Trek. But yeah, 4.
So explain that. You mean Star Wars like stuff, or do you mean actual Star Wars stuff?
Star Wars-esque.
Got it.
Yeah, like the look of it, because everything is run down. Like all the bases that like the bad guys use are always like on the side of a cliff, looking like the thing that Jabba the Hutt had in the palace in Return of the Jedi. The weapons are the weapons and stuff tend to lean into like more realistic. So again, Star Wars, they're not like you're carrying a remote control shooting people with a remote control like in Star Trek. But
right.
Yeah, it's and of
Instead,
course
you're using a joystick.
The big bad. What's that?
You're walking around shooting people with a joystick. Pew pew.
See,
pew.
Now if they would have tied it more into the series, yeah, it would have been like pew 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 pew. But no, they got more realistic looking weapons that tend to lean towards they're like the 50s, 40s and 50s, like Flash Gordon looking aesthetic, but more modern. It's pretty cool.
Sounds like a great series.
It really is, man. Again, you can find them at conventions. If you can find them, they're usually pretty cheap. But yeah, I can't recommend this series enough.
I do like that idea that you when you were younger, like just, hey, here's an issue number 1. Let's see what this is all about. And
oh man, I bought so many of them, and thankfully, fortunately, both Marvel and DC, who controlled the newsstands at the time, were releasing miniseries and limited series. So, like, if you bought like an issue 1 of, like, say, the Falcon, well, that's only going to run for 4 issues. So if it sucks, you're only out like $4, you know. But of course, that series turned out to be really cool. Or yeah, extended series like the where is it here? Like the Camelot 3000 series. Well, that was a 12 issue run. It was also like mature readers because there's a little bit of like naughty stuff in here. But
is it smut or sleaze?
It's neither. It's just tease.
Ah, there's a third category.
Well,
slut, sleaze, or tease. Nobody rides for free.
You beat me to it. Slut, sleaze, or tease. Nobody rides for free. That's gonna be the title of this video.
That's good. Now I need a shirt that says that. You know, it's interesting. You mentioned the newsstands, the spinning racks at grocery stores and that kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
I just read an article recently on the demise of the mass market paperback.
Yeah.
And one of the excuses was, everybody has their phone to enjoy, like when they're standing around at the airport or whatever. And I was thinking maybe comics could have gone that way too, but I just think the fan base is just so devoted to comics that I know comics aren't as popular as they used to be. Probably because there are so many other options for entertainment, but it's almost like the mass market paperback's just going to go away.
There are other options for entertainment, but a big part of the problem is they have priced themselves into obscurity. Same thing with paperbacks. I don't know why it is, but for some reason, paperbacks were getting like ridiculously expensive when like for like $3 more you could buy the hardback. So that, to me, that's a no-brainer. But there was a time, like I would go into like the Hooks drugstore back in the day, and they had like an entire aisle of paperbacks. So I would grab like my SOBs, and then I'd head over to the spinner racks, and I'd grab whatever comics I could find, and a 12-pack of beer, a 5th of Jack Daniels, and go hang out at my brother's house.
Nice. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
I love that. I love the visual. I love the time and place. Man, it just
walk up there with a stack of comics, then a case of beer, and a big brown bottle of liquor, and still walk out of there with like pay him a 20 and still walk out like 75 cents change. All right, well, I'm not going to say any more about Atari Force other than hit your local comic shop, see if they got any. That's a good place to start. Conventions are a good place. eBay if you want to spend money and hope you get a decent copy. But having said all that, I'm Paul.
I'm Steve.
And the next time you're looking for something to read,
check your shelf.
Or your local comic store or convention or long box.
You kept saying original penciler. You kept saying the word penciler, and I kept thinking it sounds like a Dr. Seuss character.
Oh, like a Onceler?
like on once. That's why it sounded like that.